Welcome back to Tarot by the Bay. I'm David. Okay, more gag orders. Trump's attorneys filed a motion to lift the gag order off the New York criminal trial since the trial's over and the decision's been made and the witnesses have all gone home. And, well, Joe Biden's talking about the trial, so Donald Trump should be able to talk about it. Who here thinks that's a good idea right now, given the the level of targeted interest by Trump supporters towards the jury and online threats being made to the judge and to Alvin Bragg and others. So, while they are correct, the trial's over, I don't know if the gag order is going to get lifted until after he's sentenced. So I'll look at the energy around the gag order around this. I mean, technically they're right. It's not going to impact the trial anymore. It could impact the sentencing if you let him go free. But you know what Trump's going to do. He's going to attack everybody under the sun. He's looking to attack Michael Cohen and the rest of the witnesses on this. And I guess Michael Cohen and his family are under a lot of threats. I don't know if they're in hiding or not, but they might have moved from their house. I have to check that. Hang on for a second. Let me rephrase that. Not in hiding. They were doxxed. So their personal information was, like their address of where they live, was put out on the internet. You can imagine how safe that must be. Again, when you've got a bunch of crazed fanatics of Donald Trump, most of which aren't going to do anything, but some are crazy, and they have firearms, I'm sure, and would like to take the law into their own hands. So let's look at the gag order here and see what the energy is around that and see if we're going to be keeping a gag order or releasing it. Entertainment purposes only. Well, okay, what do we got? The foundation of the reading is the Seven of Swords. The sneaking away, trying to get away with something here. Now, is this the gag order just trying to, extend it another 6 weeks beyond its shelf life? Or are there nefarious reasons for wanting to lift the gag order, which means the gag order should stay in place? Cross with the Page of Pentacles. Messaging about values. To me, this is Trump. He's been fined for a small amount of money, $10,000, for violations of the gag order, and he wants to stop paying those fines. We've got the Ten of Wands underneath here. It's kind of a weighty decision, because on the one hand, Trump is correct. The trial's over, and the gag order should be lifted because you don't want to bias the trial. The problem is that Trump is the type of person that would speak ill of all the witnesses, and if he could dox the jury himself, he would do that and send his minions running over there to make life a living hell for all the witnesses and all the jurors, because that's who he is. At some point, the gag order will be lifted. The juror names and that stuff should be kept confidential. That should never be released. That doesn't mean it can't be stolen, but it shouldn't be released. So we have some conflict here. In the past, you got the Two of Wands. This gag order was set to expire on a certain time and a certain date. Basically, when the trial was over, was going to trigger when this gag order should end. But I could clarify that and say that should trigger the evaluation that this gag order should end. The current situation is the Devil card. Trump is up to no good. Not that that's a surprise to anyone who watches this channel, but his intentions with lifting the gag order are not benevolent. He has full malevolent intent with this gag order being lifted. If this is lifted, he's going to be unhinged. Overarching energy is the Judgment card. The judge needs to decide this. I'm imagining the judge has discretion as to when the gag order is lifted, and if Trump doesn't like it, I guess he can appeal it. But the judge also has to work within the law too. So just because something's right doesn't mean it's legal. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things that are not right but are legal. The lesson to be learned is the Seven of Wands. The struggle is, I think, there's going to be a struggle. There's still going to be a fight over this. The judge isn't just going to roll over and say, okay, I'm going to lift the gag order. I think there's more of a fight left in this judge and this gag order than Trump just saying, lift it because I've got an agenda on my mind. The outcome is the Five of Coins. When this gag order is lifted, folks are on their own. I think when Trump, again, once this gag order is lifted, Trump is definitely going after anybody and everybody he can. What does this mean? Five of Coins. Out in the cold, outside of the establishment. Does that mean he's lifting it? Does that mean he's keeping it in place? It's just a consideration, I think. I think somebody's being left out in the cold here. And again, I really do think it's, Michael Cohen and his family or witnesses. I don't think it's the Trumpers there that are out in the cold. It's like the government's abandoning them by getting rid of this gag order. The gag order is like the one thing providing protection to a number of people in this case. Because, again, when Trump can't talk about the witnesses, he can't rile up the more wicked faction of his MAGA base to go make people's lives miserable. The minute he can do that, he will, and then people's lives are going to be miserable. That's kind of what that Five of Coins is. Making somebody's life miserable. That's what's going to happen when the gag order gets lifted. And that's the intent. That's across from his double card. His intent is to make people's lives miserable. Big orange baby that he is. Who's overdue for a diaper change. All right. Judge Mershon, how's he looking at this gag order request? What's he going to do? Again, entertainment purposes only. Right now, I think he's planning on protecting the witnesses and the jurors and such, and the court personnel. He's planning on doing that. He has a decision he has to make, though, because there's only so long he can legally do that. Yeah, and there's that Two of Wands. He, just like we had in the past over here, this gag order was placed to expire after the court was ended, the trial was ended. But it doesn't have to end when the trial ends. He has some discretion as to when that happens. In the past, we've got the Eight of Wands. There's a reason why this gag order is in place. Trump gets on the airwaves. There was no gag order. Remember that. There was no gag order at the start of this case. It was only because Trump was on there just intimidating witnesses and going on everybody in this that they had to institute this. Judge Engeron with his court clerk that Trump kept going on before that one. So there's this precedence that Donald Trump can't control his emotions. So since the man baby can't control his emotions, you have to put controls in place because he can't do it himself. All right. It goes on social media and calls for mayhem. Current situation is the Ten of Pentacles. The whole point of that gag order was to protect the sanctity of this case. And everybody from the most important witness to the guy from C-SPAN who just says, yeah, this video comes from C-SPAN. All the witnesses, all the court personnel, everybody is of value in this case. Everybody needed to be protected. But Donald Trump also has First Amendment rights as well. And he was fined. And here's the other thing. Here's your 10 fines of $1,000 each that happened while the gag order was in place. And that wasn't enough. That really wasn't enough to slow him down. The threat of incarceration seemed to be enough to slow him down. The overarching energy is the Eight of Cups. Yeah, it's a walking away. It slowed the money didn't slow him down, but the threat of incarceration slowed Donald Trump down. The gag order worked. Once the right punishment was threatened to be applied, it worked well. But also with the jurors and the witnesses, and again, I don't need to say juror. I mean, nobody should be attacking the jurors. That's not supposed to happen. And their personal information is supposed to be secret. So it's mostly the witnesses that would be subjected to this. But it's also the jurors. Because if that juror information gets out there, then Trump will go after them too. Okay? So that's why I say both, even though really the focus on this should be the witnesses right now, because nobody should have that juror information. But just because nobody should have it doesn't mean they don't get it. Lesson to be learned is the Knight of Pentacles. Again, this is something of value, but how long can you keep that value going? You can't, I mean, finding Trump doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Mercenaries. It's almost like the minute you lift the gag order, all these people have to get private security to sort of watch over them for a while because Trumpers are crazy. Outcome is the Four of Cups. There's no good solution on this one. Judge Merchan knows he has to lift it at some point. He's going to try and delay it, but he knows the day comes where he has to lift it, and these people are on their own. Okay? That's part of living in a free society, you know? I mean, we typically don't have our criminals having such sway over people. That's what we got to go on. That's what we got to face here. So Judge Merchan knows he has to lift it. He doesn't want to. If he could leave that thing in there for 8 months, he would do it. If he could leave it on for 8 years, he definitely would do it. 8 months, he would do it. 8 weeks, maybe. He might get 8 weeks out of it. And it's funny. Donald Trump likes everybody else to sign NDAs where they can't talk about the stuff that happened, but he wants to trumpet his feelings whenever he can. Okay, so how long does this gag order stay in place? How long before the gag order has to be lifted? How long does this gag order stay in place? The Lover's card, we have a 6. I think it's going to stay 6 weeks. I think this is going to stay until the sentencing is done. And then the gag order gets lifted. Let's see what we've got over here. We got the 5 of Cups. The disappointment, probably because it can't be held longer. He really does have the witnesses and the jurors in mind. Because he really doesn't want to lift this. He really, really doesn't. 3 of Swords, the Hierophant. Got a pair of 5s here. And there's that decision card again. He knows he has to do it. And he knows it's a betrayal. Okay, I'm going to say 5 weeks. It's going to be 5 to 6 weeks. I suspect this 5 is because it's 5 weeks before... let's see, I'm recording this on June 4th, which is a Tuesday. And Trump got convicted on a Thursday, I believe. Yeah, I think he will lift the gag order either... let's assume he lifts the gag order after the sentencing date. that was happening 6 weeks from his conviction, which is the like the 14th of the 11th of July or something like that. I think it's there. It could happen a week before, but it's like from that week before to that trial date is when it gets lifted. I don't think this 3 means it's in 3 weeks. I think this just means that he really feels like he doesn't want to do this. And this 2 is in 2 weeks because this is just the card that keeps coming up. He's known this gag order's had to been lifted. He's been waiting for this. And I think he's been trying to strategize how to keep it in place. As long as possible. And now that the request is in there, maybe he should pull a Judge Cannon and just say that he's not going to lift the gag order until Donald Trump's attorneys have a substantive conversation with Alvin Bragg, and then he could resubmit his plea to lift the gag order a week following, and then he can give Alvin Bragg a week to respond to it, and then maybe 4 to 6 weeks from there you can schedule a court hearing to hear more on it. It'd be nice if a non-corrupt judge would follow Eileen Cannon's corrupt judge ways. I mean, to hear the Trumpers howl in protest over that and then just say, this is the same thing Eileen Cannon just did. By the way, we just lifted the text from Eileen Cannon and substituted the name Judge Merchan, and y'all lost your mud. Mud in your pants. Okay. What happens with the witnesses and and maybe the jurors or anybody impacted by the lifting of the gag order? What's going to happen with them? Let's just do a little 4-carder on that one. King of Wands, they need to take action. They can't be passive on something like this. Magician, they might have to disappear for a while. They might have to wipe their social media and redo stuff to basically lead people to dead ends. So that would be one thing. Lower your social media presence or mask your social media presence. Yeah, that would be one thing you have to do. I've got these other 2 cards here. Change your schedule, change your routine. This might be the good time to go on that vacation that you've always wanted to take. Your life is going to be turned upside down because of this. You're going to have to spend money defending yourself. And it's a disappointment because you should never have had to go through this. Ever. Not in a million years. Our society, none of these people volunteered to be on that jury. These witnesses showed a lot of courage to come forward, knowing what the response would be. Once upon a time, we should revere and protect these folks, and that they're not going to get that protection from the government. They're going to get limited protection from the government. I'm sure it's going to be one of those ones that if Michael Cohen calls 911 and identifies himself as Michael Cohen, they likely will dispatch an officer to Michael Cohen's house because they know who he is and they know what the threat's going to be. Versus, oh, who was it? It wasn't the other Michael Cohen. Who was it that there was somebody in the case that Trump's lawyers served a subpoena to somebody with the same name but lived not the right person, and he kept the money and threw a bunch of shade on him. Oh God, yeah. If another Michael Cohen who's not the lawyer and former Trump attorney Michael Cohen calls the cops, yeah, they're not showing up. But if the Michael Cohen calls it, yeah, the cops will show up because they understand that. I'm sorry for what they have to go through. It's not fair. But that Trump health event cannot come soon enough for a lot of people. A lot of us, just because vicariously we might enjoy it, but for other people, literally their lives depend on it. So that's for spirit to decide, not me. Because we all know if I was in charge, things would be different. Might be a little more draconian. That just makes me all warm and fuzzy inside. Anyways, I'll leave it here. Thank you very much for watching this video and supporting my channel. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for your likes, shares, comments, everything you do to feed the YouTube algorithm so this video makes it out to a wider audience. If you are interested in international events, check out my YouTube page, Tarot of the Seven Seas. If you like this channel and want twice the fun, I've got Twin Tarot with Gary and David, tarot channel I do with my identical twin brother Gary, where the two of us sit together and basically do this exact same thing, except you have two people building off each other. It's a force multiplier. Anyways, thank you for supporting this channel. I appreciate it. I'll catch you on the next video. Take care.